Good morning. It is a beautiful Monday here in Noblesville. I hope it's beautiful wherever you are around the world. It is Monday, November 7th, the day before Election Day. Kristen Boice. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. Welcome to Mental Health Monday, a chance for you to take a quick 30-minute max break out of your day, or later on come back and watch us as well, and enjoy a conversation around keeping you healthy, and focus on your mental well-being. That is our goal today, as it is every day, not just to make it a mental health Monday, but a mental health life for you. I'm Mayor Chris Jenson. I'm joined by my good friend, somebody who volunteers her time and is a wonderful public servant in her own right, Kristen Boice, the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling here in Noblesville. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Mayor Jenson. It's so good to be with you and everybody listening today.
Always great to be with you. Always appreciate your insightful thoughts here on the show. This show started almost 3 years ago now as a way of giving back, and I appreciate, Kristen, you doing that for so long. If you are joining, good morning, Mrs. Hines. She beat me to it. If you're joining us online live and want to say good morning or hello, you're welcome to do so. If you have any questions at any point in time, feel free to type those out. If Kristen and I don't have an answer for you on the fly, we will certainly find folks that will be able to get some answers for you to those questions. Today, we're going to talk about two big topics. One, election anxiety. It is election eve, and there's the temperature in today's political climate. Kristen, as you all know, you are married to a city councilor. I am an elected official. There is the temperature is hot across the land, if you will, on this. And so you, if you're a passionate voter or you just can't, tune out the noise, we're going to talk a little bit about how to weed through that, how to deal with those topics, maybe then how to process wins or losses for you. I know if you are in the heat of the political moment, that can feel like a very personal thing. So we're going to kind of talk our way through that a little bit. Hopefully that's very topical for you. Then we're going to talk a little bit about depression. And maybe those go hand in hand. It could be. And kind of some warning signs going into the winter months and the holiday season. There's a lot of that. Kristen, you probably see a lot of that at your doorstep there at Pathways to Healing Counseling. And that's usually what gens up some of our topics here, is what you're hearing from folks in your practice. And so thankful for that. But before we do any of that today, we're going to focus on breathing. A simple thing that can make your day and moment so much better. Kristen, why don't you lead us through an exercise on that?
So we're going to do some square breathing together. I invite you to do this on your own throughout the day. As it resets your nervous system, you can come back to the present moment. Anxiety really is about the future. Depression is really about the past. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more today. And the deep breath, consistently doing deep breathing, takes you back into this present moment, here and now. We start by pressing our feet into the floor, and then we're going to take a big deep inhale through our nose. We're going to inhale for 4, hold the breath for 4, and then slowly exhale out our mouths for 8. And again, what we do with the breath is reset, recharge, rejuvenate. So let's do 2 breaths together. Big deep inhale through your nose. Hold and release.
Instant satisfaction, by the way. Whew.
It's nice, isn't it? It slows us down. We're in such a hurry all the time. And what we're doing to our nervous system is we're trapping everything inside the nervous system. So that helps release any tension or tightness or discomfort in the nervous system. So let's do one more breath. Big, deep inhale through your nose, belly to the spine, and release. And it may seem like we're going really slow, and that's on purpose. We're going at such a fast pace. We are not taking the time to check in with ourselves, to slow things down. And that's essential when we're talking about anxiety today.
Love it. Again, I always tell people I square breathe a lot in the car, especially as we travel around some of the construction zones. Not that there are any in Noblesville. I try to square breathe in the car throughout the day. my office. It's just a great, quick little thing that you can do yourself to make your day that much better. So thank you, Kristen, for leading that. Again, before we get in this conversation, if you have any questions, want to chime in, use the chat, let us know. That's what we're here for, is to try to help out here along the way today. So I threw this topic in because I feel like it's incredibly topical to talk a little bit about anxiety and thoughts around the election. You can't, and this all goes hand in hand, Kristen, with our dependence on social media, with our TVs being on all the time. Now candidates, and I know I was one of them, that found you via text message or Instagram ad. They're everywhere, and there's rhetoric out there that is playing to probably your central nervous system and triggering you. They want you to do that because that's going to lead you to go to the polls. I encourage everyone to vote tomorrow, by the way, or vote early. But we want to talk through that a little bit, how we process, not only how, maybe, Kristen, if you could touch on how we interact with those conversations in public, but then maybe also then how do we accept defeat or success after election day, and how do you go forward? So that's a lot there, kind of a soup of political stuff that I'm going to let you work through.
So as I was preparing for our conversation today, I did a little research on election anxiety. And here's a new term that is coming out because of the decisiveness, because of the fear associated with each side, depending on the side you're aligning with, is election stress disorder. And this is APA is putting this out, election stress disorder, because we're seeing so much anxiety as a result, and some depression as a result of the election and the fear that's going on. So first things first, it's so important to slow things down. So we've got to start with the breath. The second thing is, when we're looking at the election, we're really focused on the future, right? We want to say, how is our world going to be in the future? And I just had a conversation with my father over the weekend, and he was so worried about the future. And what I said to him is, I said, Dad, let's take a deep breath. And he's like, oh my gosh, here we go. We're going to keep breathing.
But your parties are fun.
He's getting intense. Like, there's a real visceral fear living in the nervous system. It's because he's bombarded in the news. He's bombarded anywhere he looks. He's hearing all the different fears of what can happen and what's at stake. And so, there is a lot at stake. So we don't want to minimize that. We don't want to bypass that. We don't want to pretend it's not there. We don't want to positive our way out of it. We call that toxic positivity. We want to be real about what's in front of us. And we want to take a look at, how do I look at this in the most healthy way possible? And notice your intensity in your nervous system is the second piece to this. How intense am I getting? What is really getting activated in terms of my fear? Because anxiety is about fear of really, it's not always, but in this case, when we're talking about the election, we're talking about the future. And the third thing is, what are you putting in? What are you digesting? How much are you digesting this? Are you taking like a fire hose and you're ingesting all of the media and all of the coverage 24/7? That's not healthy, no matter what we're ingesting. So if someone's on social media, we looked at that average 2 hours and 27 minutes a day or something to that effect. That's how much we're on social media. How much is that affecting your mental, emotional, and physical well-being? Same with the election. It's everything. You're looking at, how much time am I spending listening, ingesting, talking about, focusing on? We really need to prioritize, okay, what else can I do for my mental health that is not related to ingesting the social media or TV or television or news? We have to limit our exposure, or it's going to take over our thoughts. It's going to take over our nervous system. It's like with kids, if they watch too much violent TV, what happens? They start having nightmares at night. So that we're taking in too much and we can't process it. So what's the next thing? We have to be processing what's really going on. So what am I feeling in my nervous system? Which means, what am I feeling in my body? Because I could see when my dad was telling me about his fear, his breath changed. He got short, like he was kind of holding his breath. And I don't think he even realized he's holding his breath. He got kind of more into the conversation, leaning forward. He got more intense. And what I wanted to do is go, okay, let's recenter ourselves. It's not always easy to say that to someone, by the way. I can kind of get away with it a little bit because of what I do. So I'm not going to say to tell everybody to breathe because that doesn't usually go well. Like if someone goes, well, calm down or just relax, that's not usually what goes well. It's you staying regulated. So I had to notice he's getting intense. And this isn't to pick on my dad, but this is just the reality of what's happening. It's a lot of fear. I had to notice my nervous system and regulate myself. I can't control his. I'm not in charge of his. I can't make him feel better. The only thing I can do is tend to my nervous system, notice how I'm feeling. And here we talk about the next thing about like winners and not people that win, and that processing that. Go ahead, you were going to say
No,
something.
I just the way you worded that was just so nice.
Yeah, I
You
don't
worked
like.
hard not to say the word loser. I like that. That was
Yeah,
good.
because what happens to us is really something that happens for us, and we don't always see it that way, and we can't see it that way when we're in the middle of it. So when we can be humble, humility is so important in life. And I don't mean humility as in like I'm just going to be self-deprecating, I'm going to take the one down position, because what happens is I see in the world right now is a lot of people are taking what I call one up position. Terry Real, who's a therapist who works with couples, talks about like this one up position, and then someone comes in a one down position and they feel powerless, they feel defeated, they feel not good enough. We don't really want to be in a one up or one down. What is, we're all in this together. We're all humans in the same journey with different life experiences, but also with the similar emotional responses to a lot of things. Now, I can get more intense or I can get more submissive. So we have to look at, where are you falling on this? Are you putting yourself at one up because of your belief and you believe you're right? You're putting yourself one up, and so this person is one down and wrong and less than. We don't want to function that way. We are not going to create connection. We are not going to find healing. We're going to be stuck. So if I'm functioning from a one down position or I'm functioning from a one up position, I'm going to find myself in a stuck position emotionally, developmentally. I am not going to get what I want. So how can we bring ourselves to go, no one's in a one up, no one's in a one down. We are all in this together. We have to come to humility. That's how we do it. We own our own issues. Yes.
Question on the one up, one down. And first of all, shout out to my buddy Alfred. Great guy, by the way. Talking about the breath. You're exactly right. Keep breathing, Alfred. The one up, one down. Are there certain types of, I consider myself probably a one up person. I would assume, which you shouldn't do, that a lot of people come into positions as one up positions. Are there natural one down people?
So if you've had a lot of trauma and
Okay.
you've been controlled and you have been powerless and don't have a voice, you're going to come into situations oftentimes one down. You've been split off from your authentic self. You've been disempowered, so to speak. And so in therapy, what I work on is those folks coming up to, nobody is better than me. I can now have a voice. I can say how I feel. But if you come from a lot of trauma, that takes a lot of self-healing. And other people that have come from trauma can also take a one up because they feel powerful. They feel in control. They don't feel like someone's going to take advantage of them. That can also be from trauma as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because you've had trauma, you're going to be in a one down. So maybe you've been traumatized and you're like, I'm never going to let someone control me again. I'm never going to have that feeling. So you kind of come into it with a one up position. What we want to come is that we're all, especially in relationships, we have to be at the same. We don't want to come at my partner, my husband, or my friendships, or my kid like I'm in charge. I'm better than you. I know what's right. You're right. I'm right. You're wrong. That's going to create disconnection and erosion in relationships. And that's what I'm seeing in a lot of political conversations. Right, wrong, good, bad, all, nothing. It's not an and in both. And we get here by an and in both conversation.
Yeah, that's That's like I said, I think I probably come into a lot, especially around politics, the conversation from one up spot and being better about trying to level that and understand, respect feelings, and understand that different perspectives are important and what really keep us going. So, like I said, I just wanted to kind of clarify the one down person and who might fall into that category. All right. So walk with me to Wednesday morning and you wake up and you saw your candidate or your party or whatever it may be, won or lost. Let's talk about how we process that and move on.
It's important that
Move
we
through.
recognize, yeah, move through. Yes. I love that.
That's the buzzwords.
Yes. So the first thing is recognizing your own emotions. Do you have sad? Are you angry? Are you disgusted? Are you afraid? Are you joyful? Are you excited? Are you disappointed? The first thing you're going to do is notice your own feelings. We stay here in this position when I can own my own feelings. I can own my own body sensations and my own reactivity. The minute I'm like, well, you got what you wanted, and I'm going up. I'm not staying here. I'm angry and I'm not processing the anger. I'm projecting the anger. So that can take us into that one up. So first thing I'm going to do is own my own grief, maybe over my candidate didn't win, or my passion that I want change in the world, or whatever it is that I'm having emotion about the person not winning, or maybe I'm excited that the person's winning. I can also acknowledge that someone else might have feelings about their candidate not winning. And it's an and in both. Can I hold space for my own process, whether it's grief, anger, sadness, disgust, fear? And can I also hold space for someone else's process? Maybe it's going to be hard for me to tolerate that they're excited. Can I still stay humble in it? Or am I going, hey, what? And I'm starting to go one up and I'm putting down the other. I'm kind of righteous in my, yeah, I'm glad I won. And look, see, I told you so. That's me going puffing up and not actually checking my humility, checking my emotions. I am, I'm going to get my little journal out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write out how I feel, because I don't want to project this onto other people. I don't want to take out how I'm feeling on other people. I can certainly share how I feel from a centered message. What does that mean? That means I wrote about how I felt. I got all my anger out. I might even scribbled on a page if I need to. I'm metabolizing that. So when I do have a conversation, I can say I feel really disappointed and scared about the results. And I'm really working on kind of trying to manage that for myself. Very different approach than everything's just terrible. And I'm dysregulated because I haven't processed what I'm really feeling. I don't want to put that on somebody else, especially my kids, my partner, who might have a different opinion, right? Everybody isn't going to feel the exact same way you do. And that is when we get into the topic of, we've talked about it many times, that differentiation. I can tolerate they have a different opinion as long as they're not taking out their dysregulation on you. Then I would have a boundary to say, it's okay for you to have your own opinions. It's not okay to yell at me. I'm making this up. But you see, it doesn't mean I'm not without boundaries. It means I'm regulated because I'm taking responsibility for my own emotions around the results.
Love that. That's great. Well, I appreciate, like I said, I'm the one that threw in the election conversation because I felt like it was very topical. One thing I want to move on, though. So hopefully, again, kudos to everyone. Breathe on election day. Breathe the day after election day. Keep yourself that's a great model to have right there. I'm going to work harder at being and that balanced approach there. But we want to talk a little bit about depression. 'Tis the season, which honestly we see it all the time, but we certainly see it. Although it's on 60-degree days in November. I actually golfed yesterday. It's hard to be too depressed. But all kidding aside, you're going into a tough time of year. Holidays are upon us. Winter weather's upon us. We changed our clocks, which does have a little bit of a switch in our emotional trigger. Although it was nice this morning, it was kind of dark last night. So let's talk a little bit about depression, maybe tee it up and define it for us, and then kind of tease out where we might go from here in terms of approaching depression and understanding and identifying it.
I'm going to go a different approach with depression that you might not have heard before. And it's an important way to start expanding the way you think about it. So we have many variables that play into like us feeling depressed. I mean, you named a few: weather, transitions, we have elections, we have family dynamics, we have our past, we have current dynamics. Maybe you're going through a loss or grief. Sometimes we mislabel things. Like, for example, we might say grief and we might say, I'm depressed. No, you're grieving. And that's appropriate given the circumstances that just happened. You lost somebody or something. Let's say it's a job. Maybe you're going through a divorce, a breakup. You're going to go through the stages of grief. It's not necessarily you're depressed, you're grieving. And we've mislabeled things, I think, at times. So, depression, if you think about the word depressed, think about your depression. You're depressing and you're not processing. So oftentimes, this is a different take on it. Oftentimes, depression is unprocessed, repressed emotions that are begging to come to the surface and have you take a look and really tend to those emotions. So maybe you have some unprocessed sadness. Maybe you weren't allowed to be angry as a kid and it's living in your nervous system. And anger is an appropriate emotion when we are allowed to express it in a healthy way, especially for children. We don't, oftentimes we're like, don't throw a tantrum. No, they're doing it to get that out so they can come back to center. They can come back to regulation. And if we don't allow that to be expressed, that's going to turn into depression probably in real time. We noticed those statistics last time we were together. The 79% of 18 to 24-year-olds are reporting feeling lonely and depressed and anxious. There's a lot going on there. And that's why it's critical we are checking in with each other, including yourself, and saying, what are you feeling? What are you noticing in your nervous system? What are you feeling in your body? Depression is repressed emotions from the past. Not to say we can't have circumstantial things come up. Now, I also think it's important we're delineating between grief and loss and depression. I want to make sure I'm really highlighting that because what we've done now, and there's a great new book by Dr. Gabor Mate called The Myth of Normal. And what we've called all these things normal, but really what we really want to say is you are having appropriate responses given the world's circumstances. And we're not saying that. Like, yeah, it's okay for you to feel angry about some of the things that are happening in the world. It's okay for you to feel sad about what happened to you as a kid. It's okay for you to feel disgusted over maybe some of the family dynamics you have, but we don't say that. We don't give people permission to say that's quote, and I don't even like the word normal, and he's debunking that whole normal title. That's why he came up with the title of the book. And there is it's appropriate given what you've walked through, given what you've been through, given the state of the world. It's okay to have emotions about it. What are you doing with the emotions? Are you journaling them? Are you talking to maybe a professional? Are you going to a 12-step program? Are you moving your body? Are you doing the breath work? Are you tending and nurturing yourself? That's the key. Here's an acronym that Tara Brach came up with. It's called RAIN. And this is a way to cope with depression. It's recognizing, right? It's allowing basically what's in the body to come forward. It's really getting into integrating kind of what you are feeling, your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and then it's nurturing those. So I'm probably not saying this in exactly the way she says it, but I like the RAIN acronym because it's about tending to what lies within you. And that's so important. Not looking externally, not self-medicating, actually tending to what lies within emotionally.
I like that idea of what you just described about, allowing and giving yourself permission to feel the way you feel. And then also giving others the permission to feel the way. I'm a fixer. I know I've talked about this on the show quite a bit. Like, I want to go fix the problem right away. Trying to be better about slowing down. And like, that person feels that way for a particular reason. They're allowed to feel that way. And to your point, it's appropriate that they feel that way based on the situation that they may be in. It's what I hear you saying.
Yes. And it's recognizing if I'm getting really intense about a situation, maybe it's rooted in something from not this present moment. Maybe chances are it's really rooted in something from the past that never got processed. That's similar, like you're feeling that similar way in the present moment, but it's really about the past. So
Yes.
that's why awareness and doing your own work is so powerful. And I love it so much because you can delineate by writing it out, by processing, by talking about it. Like, what is, oh, I'm getting really activated because this reminds me of when my mom would yell and scream. I'm making this up, but you get the idea. Like, I'm able to go, oh, this is really not about you. It's about my past, or it's about an experience I had that kind of left an imprint on me.
Well, I think it's important to note too that, and this will kind of move to kind of identifying depression and yourself and others, which I want to get to before we wrap up the show here. But understanding that that depression isn't always it could be grief, to your point. So maybe asking yourself, why do you think this person feels this way, or why do I feel this way? And examining the circumstances before we quickly put a label on it. To your point, us maybe rushing someone else through a certain phase because we think they're depressed and they should feel better probably is actually not helping their grief process through that.
Yeah, one thing I think is so important what you're saying is when we can get more comfortable, when we can sit in the discomfort of what we feel, we can start to tease out what is really going on. Oh, that's about grief that I really didn't get to process in real time from, when my dog died. I mean, I'm being serious. Like, these are things that we think I'm fine and move on and pull myself up by the bootstraps. Really, what we're doing is we're paralyzing ourselves in feeling stuck because we didn't get the opportunity to really tend to those emotions. And depression invites us into exploration of what's really lies underneath. And when you can go, okay, I know I'm scared to go there. I know it's going to, bring up a lot, and I can have a support system to help me through it. You start freeing yourself. The weight that you've been carrying around is lifted. For example, when I talk to my kids about feeling sad, and I say, is there anything you want to get out that you might have been hiding, or might have been, telling yourself it's not that big of a deal, or, I don't want to get in trouble, so I don't want to say anything. I give them full permission slips to say, I need you to notice once you say the thing that you felt kind of shamed maybe to say, or embarrassed, or you're afraid you're going to get in trouble. Notice the difference between you expressing it and getting it out, and then the before when you were holding it in. I'm telling you, it's a drastic difference when you can, and you're met with not anger, you're met with empathy, and you're met with a safe place to process it. They start to learn, and you start to really recognize in your own life the difference in when you suppress, push down, rationalize, and when you are free to share it. It's liberation.
Yeah, you always see, like, even in movies, that little scene where they like spill their guts on something, and they're like, "Ah, it feels so much better now that I just told something." That's a real thing. That's a real euphoria. That's a real thing.
It's real, and research validates it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so powerful. And
yeah.
then when someone keeps going, I'm like, yep, that's
Yep.
okay.
Let's
Keep
go.
going. Let's get it all out. It's kind
Spill
of
it
like
out.
a confessional, but it's a
Yeah.
confessional in a different way because we're dealing with the emotions of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just saying the words, the cognitive thoughts. We're also processing the emotions of it. That's the key.
Yep, I love that. Well, we're going to run out of time, so we're going to put a pin in this conversation. I want to start in 2 weeks with depression at the top of our story, or of our half an hour. I want to talk about identifying factors, maybe some lessons for how you work with someone else who you might think might be depressed, or yourself, etc. So we're going to continue on that topic in 2 weeks. But this has been amazing. Wonderful conversation as always. Thanks to everyone who has tuned in. Kristen, I know your answer is nice and concise on this now that we have a wonderful nationwide resource around this. But if I'm needing help today, where do I go?
988. I just gave this out to a teen who was like, what do I do with it? I said 988. 988. It's okay. You don't know what to do. This is the number. Keep it in your back hip pocket, and you can text or call any time, or maybe you're with somebody and you don't know what to do. 988 is the hotline. It's like the 911 for emergencies. This is the 988 for mental health.
It's for you, or if you're trying to help someone, use that number. They will coach you right through it. So Kristen Boice, you're awesome. Everybody breathe through tomorrow. The sun will come up on Wednesday morning, and we'll process together, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks for another great conversation on Mental Health Monday. Kristen Boice, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
All right. Stay safe, everyone.